Hello? Yes, it works. Everyone can have a seat and make yourself comfortable. We'll start in a minute.
We good? Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome. My name is Mary Ann Houston. Most of you know me, but for those of you who don't, I have the pleasure of being the Chief Nurse Executive here at Meadville Medical Center. I'm honored and privileged to be here today as we join CORE, the Center for Organ Recovery and Education, during Donate Life Month to raise awareness about organ, tissue, and cornea donation. Last Monday evening, April 2nd, we kicked off Donate Life Month as Shannon Scott, our MMC nurse who works in cardiac care, and our CORE Advisory Council representative, welcomed everyone to our first annual Light Up Night here at MMC. If you come in late at night or early in the morning, you'll see the lights, the blue and green lights, illuminating the entryway into the hospital. Those lights represent Meadville Medical Center's commitment to organ, tissue, and cornea donations. Most importantly, we recognized the donors and the donors' families who have graciously given the gift of life. Nationally, there are nearly 115,000 people waiting for an organ transplant. Every 10 minutes, that number increases as someone new is added, unfortunately, to the national transplant waiting list. Just one person can make an incredible impact. They have the potential to save 8 lives through organ donation and 75 lives through tissue donation. That's huge. That's a huge initiative. As I read the t-shirts last Monday that said things such as recycle yourself, be an organ donor, and listen to the touching journeys of organ recipients, spouses, and also donors, it really became evident to me that they are truly the advocates for health and ultimately life. I personally have been an organ donor for a lot of years, so I'm looking forward to hearing stories today, how I might help another individual to have a second chance at life. Thank you for being here with us today, and I believe Shannon's going to come up with Jennifer and do the flag. We're going to go ahead and raise the flag, and this is going to be hung for the entire month of April in honor of Donate Life Month. And Shannon Scott, here to your right, correct, is our Meadville Medical Center CORE representative here at the hospital, and Jennifer is our new professional services liaison through CORE. She will be taking Alyssa Mccullen's position for the Meadville Medical Center area and the surrounding community area. Thank you, everyone, for being here today. If you get a chance to and you're in one of our restrooms, you will see our Flush Flash news report that talks about organ donation, and there's a lot of interesting facts there too. Thank you so much. And Alyssa, I believe you're up next. Alyssa Mccullen has been with us for several years. It's been a great relationship. She is actually, her title is Professional Services Liaison, Donor Family Support Coordinator through CORE. You're going to be transitioning to the Pittsburgh area, and then Jennifer is going to be our representative here, but we're happy to have you, Alyssa. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Marianne. As she said, my name's Alyssa Mccullen, and I'm the Professional Services Liaison and Donor Family Support Coordinator here at Meadville. I've had the pleasure of working with this hospital for 3 years, and to see the growth that you guys have had is a wonderful thing, and we really appreciate all the support in the hospital and the community. So good morning, and thank you for the privilege to speak at this flag-raising ceremony today. It's an honor to celebrate National Donate Life Month here with all of you at Meadville Medical Center. There's a fairly universal rule that cuts across just about every discipline, whether it's high technology, hospitality, or healthcare. It's a simple rule that partnerships fuel progress. CORE is privileged to have an outstanding partnership with Meadville Medical Center. Our partnership is a critical link to our donor families and the recipients awaiting a second chance at life. With compassion, together we help a patient's family understand that death has occurred and how their loved one's legacy can live on through donation. In 2017, this partnership provided the gift of enhanced life to over 900 tissue recipients and provided the gift of sight to 18 recipients. Please give yourself a round of applause. These life-changing results are only possible through the ongoing support of the leadership team here at the hospital, the dedicated physicians, nurses, and the entire team. So today we pause to honor you, to thank you, and to recognize the many lives you have enhanced because of your commitment to the cause. Each of you is a hero. Today we also honor and thank the donors and their families who are also the heroes of transplant. Donors like Christopher Hershberger and his mother, Rosie Hershberger. You'll hear their incredible story of donation and transplant today. They made a choice. They chose to give the gift. That action, that choice forever changed the lives of the transplant recipients, their families, and those who continue to wait. When a family chooses donation, you give hope to the 115,000 people who are still waiting for a life-saving organ transplant. We will hear from a thankful heart recipient today, Sean Carpenter. As said by Pope Francis, hope is the anchor that keeps us holding on. Hope is a powerful gift. In closing, I would like to also thank those on the donor advisory group like Dr. Zellen, Dr. Warren, Shannon Scott, Tony Pierce, Marianne Houston, and the palliative care team with Crawford County Hospice. Altogether, you have created a culture in which donation is part of the healing process for families. Unfortunately, our work is not done, for the need is still great, and it takes every one of us to make donation happen. That's why your presence here today matters. It serves as a reminder of how important you are to the donation and transplant process. It is a reminder that you make a difference every day. Thank you for your attendance and for your ongoing commitment to the mission. I wanted to take the opportunity to ask any donor family in the room to please stand so we can recognize you. Thank you. And also any recipient in the room. Thank you, guys. And I would also like to recognize all of the family members. It's a very difficult journey, and it wouldn't be possible without all of you. So I'm now going to introduce Sean Carpenter. He is a local heart recipient, and I'm happy to have him share his story with all of us. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Sean Carpenter. I'm glad to be here for Donate Life Month. At the age of 16, I went for a driver's permit test, and when they were doing the physical, they found a irregular heartbeat. Then they sent me to Erie to a cardiac doctor, and they found cardiomyopathy. They had it under control for the past 17 years with medicine. I had a pacemaker defibrillator. Last year, I was doing okay, and then I started going downhill. My pacemaker fired 47 times. I kept on going into cardiac arrest, but the pacemaker kept me alive. I was in and out of the hospital for months, and they put me on a transplant list. I was on there for about a year, and I failed and failed more. So I was in the hospital in ICU. They had to put a heart or LVAD in for 7 months. That was a life changer for me and my family. My mother, she had to wrap me in cellophane to take a shower. We had to put the battery in the compartment in the bag to take a shower. I was only allowed in there for a few minutes. It was hard, but we got through it. And then 7 months down the road, I was eating dinner with my family and my pacemaker went off. I went into cardiac arrest, and they flighted me down to Pittsburgh UPMC Presby. I was in there for about a month, and I was failing fast. They had to put a ventilator inside me, and it was just a waiting game. On April 12th, God answered our prayers, and they found me a heart. Being an organ donor is so important because if your family needs one, you would want them to have one. So you can't be selfish. You should be an organ donor. My mother died suddenly at 40 years old, and she was an organ donor. She saved 70 lives with everything they could save from her. It's just a blessing for the organ donor to be there because he saved my life. He's my hero. I don't know who he is, but hopefully one day I will meet his family and get to know him. Well, thank you for listening to my story, and you all have a great day.
Thank you, Sean. It's so important to hear these stories from recipients because donation is really an amazing thing, and we thank all of the donor families here today, too. So I'm happy to introduce Rosie Hershberger. She's the donor family, and she's going to share her connection to donation. So come on, Rosie.
Is this on? The first time I spoke for CORE was up in Erie 6 years ago. And I was up on a stage, and I said, "How am I going to do this? Can you play some music for me?" Christopher was a singer and a dancer, so they played Life is a Highway, and I danced across the stage. So now that I finally figured out how to use my phone, I thought I'd bring that back here. All seriousness now. On January 18th, 2012, I lost my son Christopher. At 4:37 in the morning, he came in with an ice pack on his head and said, "Hurt, Mom, hurt." "All right, Christopher, you stay up all night, get in bed. You know, you got to get up. We have therapy in the morning. Whatever, let's go." He gets into bed. He doesn't look good. Something's not right here. Can you guys hear me okay? Something's not right. I get up, get him in the shower. He ended up having a seizure, and I knew at that point it wasn't good. We called 911. The crew come in and did what they could do there at the house. I called my son and daughter, who were both younger than Christopher, come to help. They took him to the hospital at 6 a.m. The doctor came in, or the nurse came in and said, "Can we vent him?" I'm like, "Yeah, I have to take him to therapy at 7:45, so yes, let's go, hurry up." I'm sure she thought I was out of my mind. I was later that day. When we got to All Children's in the afternoon, we got there at 11 in the morning, and they had told me that Christopher had passed. He had had a brain hemorrhage, and he had bad bleed from the brain. He wasn't doing well. I'm like, well, fix him. We've got to go. They're like, no, it's too late. So we waited, and his father come up from Florida, his sister come in from Penn State, my other kids come over, my friend that's here today, Mandy, come over, and a lot of friends and family come into the hospital. We met with the doctor. He showed us the CAT scan. And it didn't look good because I'm not a doctor or nurse or anything like that. And I'm going, yeah, what is that down there? He said his brain had gone down to his brainstem. It was very bad. There's nothing we can do. So I'm standing there. We have a little prayer service. I'm standing there and I walk out and I said, what about organ donation? Okay, I'm a little older than most parents at the time. And my parents, my father, and it's funny that somebody had just said this, said, you don't ever donate your organs. They'll let you die on the side of the road and harvest your organs. So that's how I grew up. That's what I thought. That's what I was afraid of. When I walked out of that room that day and said, what about organ donation? I think my poor social worker had a heart attack herself because her mouth dropped to the ground and she said, I'll be right back. And there was Chelsea waiting in the room. Chelsea Sebecki was our nurse. And she spoke to me about organ donation. I was like, yes, let's do whatever we can. Let's keep Christopher alive. Christopher was 17 years old, 6 weeks away from being 18. Christopher had Down syndrome, and he had rheumatoid arthritis. That's why the therapy. Not for the Downs, but for the arthritis. We were going to aquatherapy. This little kid loved to sing and dance and color and draw and drop coins down my register fence. Very well loved in the community. We moved up from Florida in 2005, and Christopher passed in 2012. We didn't really know anybody when we moved up here, but the calling hours for his funeral were from noon until 9 p.m., wrapped around the funeral home. I don't know if you guys all remember, but in 2012 there was a phenomenon of how many rainbows there were. Christopher loved tie-dye. So at his funeral, the calling hour started at 1, and I was there about 11, and about 12, some of my friends started coming in, and they came running in and pulled me outside. Now, mind you, it was January, and we couldn't fly to All Children's because a few days earlier, when this had all happened, we had such a horrible snowstorm that we couldn't fly. We had to wait till the roads were cleared even to drive down there. But here it was 4 days later having his calling hours, and it was sunny and raining, and there was a full rainbow right outside at the funeral home. So with that in mind, and keeping that Christopher liked tie-dye, 110 of our best friends wore these shirts, and Christopher's actually buried in this shirt. We had just got that shirt for Christopher at Hershey. We were over for the farm show the weekend before he passed. So this is why some people know me as the tie-dye lady, because I wear this. And if you look around here, I have boards. These boards were made when he passed, and we had them up at the funeral home. I said, Christopher's not going to graduate from high school. He's never going to go to college. He's never going to get married. All those things I kind of figured might not happen anyway because he had Downs. Now they're really not happening. So his funeral looked like most kids' graduation open houses. But I take these boards with me wherever I can, anytime I speak for CORE, anytime I meet anybody who'll listen to me long enough, I tell the story of Christopher and how it was him that wanted to go on. It was him that told me to get out there and find that organ donation and what to do next. Going through the process was hard and long, even though it was only about 36 hours. It felt like 36,000 years. But coming out of there, my friend was the funeral director. So she, in the morning at the hospital, we came from a smaller town over in Ohio in the summers, in Kinsman. And when we went to the hospital that morning, our doctor come in. He's like, what's going on? I said, I don't know, you tell me. So he said, well, I can have Pam come pick up the kids. I'm like, as long as she doesn't come pick up Christopher. Kind of a joke, trying to lighten things up. Well, Pam picked up Christopher. She was a funeral director. We went home, dropped off Chris, and that's when we put all this together with how we wanted to do how we wanted to honor Christopher and what we could do for him to keep going on. Thinking back at my dad, who'd been gone for years, and how he told me, no, never be an organ donor. Dad, shame on you. Shame on anybody who thinks that, because it's so not true. I have met in the first year, Christopher donated his kidneys, his liver, his pancreas, and his heart valves. My other son, Zachary, who's a couple years younger than Chris, was so persistent in the hospital with Chelsea, our nurse, and he kept saying, his heart has to go on. It's too big not to. And through the time of trying to find the matches, the heart was not able to go on. But Chelsea come back and she said, good news, we can use his heart valves and we'll find somebody to keep alive with those heart valves. To this day, Christopher's heart is somewhere in California. So when I give my speech, I always, but I'm not going to today, break out in song about I left my heart in San Francisco. Someday I'm going to find that person. It's a male that was 49 years old 6 years ago. So it's right about my age, right? There's a little boy who was 12 years old, and his parents were in the waiting room with us, but we didn't know who they were. My husband kept saying, that's them. I'm like, just shut up, my ex-husband. I was like, just stop, leave him alone. I wished so badly that I would have reached out to those people then. But I did, through friends, found out who she was, and I did contact the mom. And that little boy is now, he should be graduating this year. He's back in school after just not even a full year. He's back in school. Everything's great with him. He's doing well. He was 12. He was very sick. We're not going to make it. He'd been in the hospital for a couple months. Then there's Kurt. There is Kurt. Kurt was 39 years old at the time. And he needed a kidney and a pancreas. And when Christopher was the floorgraph for the Rose Parade that year from Corps. He was on the float. So we went out there, got to do all this fun stuff with the parade. And prior to the parade, I took my kids to Cars Land in Disneyland because he loved cars and Tow Mater. He's actually buried with Tow Mater. In his tie-dye shirt. But meeting, the way I met Kurt was when Corps came to the high school and we had a celebration there and we finished the eyebrows on the floor graft. Somebody called the office at the school and said, I'm interested in organ donation and I hear there's an event going on there today. Well, school, you can't give that information out. So they gave me the number. I got home that afternoon and I called. And my Christopher's teacher's aide was named Sue. And Sue lived down the road from Kurt's family. So through the almost year, we had kind of put all these things together. So when this guy calls and says, I want to know about organ donation and this, I said, have you been an organ recipient? He said, yes, ma'am, I have. And I so wish Kurt was here today because he spoke with me in Pittsburgh a couple weeks ago. And then I said, do you happen to have Christopher's pancreas? And he said, yes, ma'am, I do. And he said, I was so nervous, I didn't know what to say. And I said, and that's the last time you'll call me ma'am. Now he calls me mom, even though he's close to my age. But I said, I'm so glad you're here, Kurt. Now you're seeing your family grow up. You're seeing, you have a daughter that has a baby now, and you've run for some councilman in Portersville where he lives. He's just very active. Only one more thing about Kurt, he's blind. But he says, I'm not blind. I see different than everyone else. I still go out there and do. And in that spirit, that was Christopher. He had Down syndrome, so he was a little different than everybody else. But he made such a difference because we donated his organs. And then the last, but definitely not least, is Andrea, who I hoped was coming today. She was just 19 when she first found out that she had kidney failure. She was a soccer player. My kids all play soccer. And she was up in college in New York. Through the time she did get a kidney, it lasted 6 years. and then it failed. She was on the list for 3 years. She got Christopher's other kidney. And I contacted her through CORE. She had sent me a book. She had made one of those fancy snapfish books that I'm not real good at doing, but she did anyway. And Michelle sent it to me, and it was right around the time that had been a year for Christopher's passing. And I met with Andrea, and Andrea has celebrated her 8th wedding anniversary yesterday. So Andrea has gotten the kidney. Everything's perfect with her. She goes on. She becomes a nurse. She wants to come work for CORE eventually. I hope that does work out for her. But she's doing very well. And although, here's another thing I didn't know, but once you get a organ transplant, you're not necessarily supposed to have a child. Well, Andrea was young and healthy now, and she talked to her doctor, 4 different ones, but she got her doctor to let her have a baby. So she was pregnant, and I was nervous. It was like, how is she going to deal with this? She had her baby on December 12th, but he wasn't due until February. When he was born, he was 3 pounds, 11 ounces, which was my Christopher's birthday. That little boy is a doll. He is cute. He so reminds me of Christopher. He's very busy. He has blonde hair and blue eyes, and his name is Connor Christopher. Connor's been out to speak with us before too, and I can't wait till she'll bring him out and let him run around someplace, which is still that. But I encourage everyone, everywhere I go. I've been to Jamaica, sitting around the poolside, and people will say, I don't know, anything. And then I'll get, oh, is that your grandson? My little necklace. And I'm like, no, that's my son. And then boom, I start the story, and I'm thinking, am I boring you people? Am I boring you? And they don't leave. They keep asking questions. So when we had the benefit or the event at the school, we had 16 kids through that sign up to be donors, or their families to be donors because they were younger. So then last Thursday, my youngest daughter, who's graduating this year soon, we go to get her license, and they said to her, organ donor, you have to have your parent here to sign. Well, I'm standing right behind her. And she looks at him and she goes, duh. So the guy said, do you want to be an organ donor? And I said, our families are all organ donors. And Zara's like, well, Mom, don't start the story. But it did. She signed up, and now she's very proud to be an organ donor too. We spread the word. All of us do spread the word every time we can. We'll tell it everywhere. Sometimes I'm sure people are like, lady, stop. But I won't stop. I won't stop until I can get everybody I know to sign that card and be an organ donor. And I try to tell the story where my dad said, oh, no, don't do it. Wrong, Dad, wrong. So please share the word, spread it as much as you can. I'll speak to anybody afterwards, anytime. I talk too much, I know. But thank you all for coming out today, and I'm glad you're here. And thanks for having me, Cor.
Okay, thank you all. We're really excited. We've been working on a donor memorial wall for a year now, and it was just finished a few days ago. So we're now going to work our way to the wall so we can dedicate it. Pastoral Care Services is going to be with us, and then we'll go to the emergency department and raise the flag outside. So please join us, and thank you all for being here.
I think we're going to do the dedication.
Here? Okay, yeah, go ahead. You're going to come up here?
Just makes it easier.
Yeah, sure. And then we can walk. Oh, thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Lois, and I am the chaplain here at Meadville Medical. And as I was coming in and looking at the pictures of all of the folks who have donated, we get just a snapshot of who they were in this life, and they
Personnel, Neuro Alert, Emergency Department. Attention all personnel, Neuro Alert, Emergency Department. Estimated time of arrival, 5 minutes. Attention all personnel, Neuro Alert, Emergency Department. Estimated time, 5 minutes.
Let's have a moment of silence as we think about this person coming in and praying that they do well. But I was thinking how we see just a little snapshot. There was a whole life behind each one of these people. They had hopes, they had dreams, they had a future they were looking at, they had families and friends who loved them dearly. And when the time came, those friends and family were able to look beyond their sorrow into hope and into the promise that they could live on in a different way. It would never be the same, but it would be a different way that gives hope. So I'd like us to take a few moments of silence and think about the mighty gift that these folks gave so many people. My father was not able to donate his organs. He was 86 when he died. And I remember thinking to myself, rather stupidly, I thought, what are they going to do with an 86-year-old body? My father helped 87 people that we're aware of. It was amazing to me how many people were touched by his willingness to do that. So let's take just a minute and breathe in the generosity of the folks that surround us and the live on in other people. Lord, we remember those folks. We remember their lives and what they have meant to so many people and how they continue to live in the spirit and in the person of other folks. And now let's take a moment of silence to think of all of those people who are lying in hospital beds or who are at home wondering when they're going to get the phone call, if they're going to get the phone call. Let's remember those people as they deal with all of the emotions and the feelings of wanting and waiting to get an organ, but knowing what the cost of that organ is to folks. Let us remember those folks who have received and now have an opportunity to live life in joy, in the promise of a future. There are so many people we can thank for the beauty of organ recovery and donation. Some of them are here, doctors, the nurses, folks who help somebody who's received, those who are there to comfort those who have lost a loved one. We now are going to dedicate that donor memorial wall. We're going to dedicate it that it stand as a reminder for the sacrifice of those who have given, for those who have received such a beautiful gift. We will dedicate it as it stands for hope. Hope in the midst of such human tragedy. Hope that there is a future. Hope that there is a promise. Hope that somebody can live a better life because of what has been given. It stands as a promise that we are surrounded by love, by generosity. We are surrounded by so much that gives us peace as we do this work and this ministry. The donor memorial wall can remind us of peace. For when we have lost somebody so dear to us, there is a peace of knowing that a piece of them goes on in someplace else. Each one of these people left a legacy. The donor memorial wall stands as a place to remember that legacy. So as we go forth, let us remember the Creator who has bound us together. May we remember the peace that passes all understanding, and may we remember the generosity of those who have given. This we pray in our holy Lord's name. Amen.
We now can make our way down to the donor memorial wall.
No, he just said. He's like a battling idiot. So just so you know, this is appreciation. Not editing here. I see a big vision.
You guys can come down and see it too. I'll move. Just a little bit of background. The hospital, Tony Pierce applied for this scholarship to have a donor memorial wall in the hospital. So we tried to spread these out across our service area. It's our hope that every hospital will create a space where we can remember the donors and think of recipients and those waiting. So Meadville received this scholarship and proudly supported the initiative to create this. So it's really beautiful and it will be here for years to come. And I know there's thought that they may expand and add to the wall with time. So thank you guys. And if you want to come forward, we can get everybody in a quick picture. You can all cram in.
You got your picture? We're just about there. They want another one.
Yeah, get in, everybody. Good job, by the way. Wonderful job.
Yeah, I think stars hop on there and take everybody up the elevator.
Yeah, with a nice camera. You guys work together. My camera's always help us. Everybody come in. We're gonna just like get together and kind of, if we can kneel a little bit so we can see the wall. Get low.
I'll wait until they take a picture.
You guys get a picture, Jen. Come on. Just you can throw that on the ground. It'll be okay.
Yeah, just let us know when, so we'll scooch that.
Mandy, jump in with that.
Come on, Miss Lori, come on in.
Can I do a fun pose? Or am I being restricted?
Jackie, are you going to get in after all your hard work?
Yeah, come on, Jackie, come on. Seriously.
They'd probably still be waiting.
Yeah, there we go. Oh,
I'd like to thank Jackie.
Come on in. What about Sean's here?
Yeah, come in. Yeah, we
Come on in. Come on in, you guys. Mom and Dad in. Yeah. Penny and Randy, that's right. Come on in.
come on.
And here's Chris, right?
Should we get in?
Chris is like, no, I'm in the way back. You're too tall. We can't miss you.
I was gonna say, but wait until they tell us to scratch.
I won't get up. Do we need to move down? Are you able to get in there? Get him in by, can we get him in by Sean?
There we go.
All right, everyone. Get a little left.
Yes, very tall.
Everyone ready?
Oh, yeah. Can you get us all?
Ready? I'm gonna grab the camera.
Now we're all stuck in. Thank you.
Thank you.
We're now going to go to the flag. Tell me if you know the best way to get to
We're gonna take elevators.
elevators.
Unless they want to walk up the hill.
I don't know which way. That's what I'm hoping.
What do you need us to do, right?
Underneath the Pennsylvania flag here.
They don't have the Meadville flag. They used to have the Meadville.
You said they don't have any room to put flags.
Shannon?
You
fine if the sun was out.
Well, it was out earlier.
Yes, it was.
That's all I had from rebuttal.
Oh, you're welcome. Glad to do it. Oh yeah, that looks nice.
Doesn't that look nice?
When the wind goes the other way, it'll come the other way.
That's you.